Republican politicians behind the scenes have been calling their Republican CEO friends within corporate America, and they have been pressuring them to fire any and all individuals who have said harsh things about or celebrated the unfortunate death of the MAGA conservative influencer, the late Charlie Kirk. Tyrone Bowman Live. I've researched several articles, and I'm going to read this one first, and then I'll get into some of the other ones in separate videos. But this one is from the Washington Post, and the headline reads, "More employers fire workers over Kirk posts as pressure from the right mounts. Calls for punishment are multiplying against those seen as having mocked or celebrated the conservative influencer's killing." Let me just say this from the rip. I don't find it humorous, and I don't find it nice, especially at a time of mourning for the Kirk family of this tragic and unfortunate assassination that has happened here in this nation. And it's not a moment for celebrating. Definitely not. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on the 4th of April, a segment of the nation mourned, but the majority didn't. But I want to get into this article. So according to the Washington Post, the wave of companies and other institutions firing or suspending employees over what they've said in reaction to last week's killing of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk has expanded in recent days, as some of his supporters in and outside the government amp up push against speech they say crosses lines. The Secret Service, several U.S. airlines, Office Depot, and NASDAQ said they were among more than 30 employees that have sanctioned or fired employees in reaction to their statements about Kirk's killing. Roughly 36 workers are reported to have been suspended or fired over their responses to Kirk's killing, including employees of Clemson University, MSNBC, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the Carolina Panthers. Several local fire departments and school districts said they had also suspended or terminated employees over their remarks. I think that the crazy MAGA host on Fox should be fired for saying that the homeless people should be taken someplace and shot. He offered some flimsy apology and he got to keep his job. He should have been fired on the spot. On Monday, while hosting Kirk's podcast, now listen to this, Vice President J.D. Vance suggested that people tell bosses if they see someone celebrating Kirk's killing, quote, "When you see someone celebrating Kirk's murder, call them out and hell, call their employer," Vance said. A website which calls itself the Charlie Kirk Data Foundation went viral on social media after publishing a searchable list of thousands of people accused of posting critical messages of Kirk after his killing on Sunday. It said the list, which it subsequently took down, had grown to more than 63,000 people. The backers of the website did not identify themselves and declined to comment when contacted via a message on X. And you know what? It should be on both sides. I don't think that the Republicans and supporters of the Republican Party, MAGA supporters, have the right to talk about black people the way they do. They need to be fired from their jobs because there is an all-out attack against black people in this nation. Yeah, no one is happy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I'm definitely not happy. I didn't particularly agree with his views or what he stood for, but that's political. I didn't know the man as a person. I just only know what he said publicly. But to celebrate someone's demise, it's cruel, callous, cold, and downright hateful. And as I said on Saturday, there is a family in mourning. There's a grieving widow. There are children that are left behind. And this is not a time for this type of rhetoric to be happening in this nation. And it needs to stop on both sides. From the top down to the bottom, it needs to stop. You can't call for unity in a nation and then continue to try to vilify the Democrats. It was a Republican congressperson who blamed the Democrats for the assassination. You remember? Quote, the Democrats own this. Close quote. And she went on to say a whole lot of other things. And when it was finally revealed at a press conference by the governor of Utah that the individual was from that state and he was a part of MAGA. And he wasn't black. So the rhetoric has to stop all the way around. And employers, yes, they're going to fire them because the majority of the employers, they're owned by MAGA donors and all that kind of foolishness. So isn't it ironic? If the website is so proud of publishing the list, why are the cowards not revealing themselves? At a time when people have unprecedented ability to share their instant reactions with vast audiences on social media, the actions by employers have stirred a debate over employees' speech rights, the role of public pressure, campaigns, and what is appropriate public commentary on a violent event like Kirk's killing. Robbie Starbuck, a conservative activist, a MAGA activist, who was a longtime friend of Kirk, has previously waged social media campaigns against big companies over their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, said he has been amplifying social media posts calling for worker firings over comments about Kirk's killing because he wants to send a message, quote, that this behavior is intolerable in a sane society, end quote. Now, what's intolerable in an insane society? That you all keep trying to target black people all the way around. We're not even thinking about y'all. You can be whatever you want to be. You can have your whites only town down in Arkansas. I don't care. But we have freedom of speech to speak responsibly. And if you're going to nullify freedom of speech for one group of people, then you have to do it for all. They don't get to say any and everything that they want to. I think that people are going to be afraid to voice opposition to what they say. Rejecting any comparison to what he called left-wing cancel culture, he said, the left canceled Dr. Seuss because the books offended them, and they tried to get people fired for not getting the COVID vaccine. We're demanding action because people mocked or celebrate an assassination in broad daylight. Deal with the murderer. Deal with this savage. Deal with this animal who assassinated Charlie Kirk. Call him out on the cold, calculated thing that he did. You don't handle him with kid gloves. He should get the death penalty. And there is no defense attorney in America that can come up with any plausible defense that's going to pass the smell test. You're not going to find any jury composed of his peers that's going to find him not guilty. He's already found guilty. Adam Goldstein, Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at the nonprofit and nonpartisan Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which has argued against incursions on free speech, said the pattern of some people facing condemnation for being, quote, mockingly or insufficiently sympathetic, end quote, plays out, quote, again and again after every tragedy, end quote. He noted similar dynamics played out after 9/11 and the 2024 assassination attempt on then presidential candidate Donald Trump. But with people's statements after Kirk's death, ranging widely in tone and substance across social media, Goldstein raised concerns about treating all comments critical of Kirk with the same broad brush. When we talk about people at this scale, they're doing very different things, saying different things, and saying very different things to different audiences, he said, to put them all in the same bucket and say all these people should be canceled, really, quote, close quote. Goldstein said while many other firings may be permissible because the First Amendment only protects people's speech from government intrusion, he questioned whether they were wise. If you create this precedent, do you think it'll be the last time it'll be used, he asked? If you start purging employees every time the public demands it, how many employees will you have left after 5 or 10 years? The debate has been playing out at a range of institutions over the past few days. And for individuals, if you feel threatened by your employer, if you feel as though that you're being intimidated because of the color of your skin, and they dare you to have a political opinion, I'm talking about political opinions now. I'm not talking about derogatory opinions. I'm not talking about people being ill-mannered, disrespectful, and things of that nature. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you have a difference of a political ideology, that's one thing. Here's something that you Republicans need to do. You need to pass gun control in honor of the late Charlie Kirk. You wouldn't do it for the Democrats. Now do it for him. You know why you're not going to pass gun control measures? Because the National Rifle Association, through lobbying, pays you all too much money to vote against anything that might infringe upon their Second Amendment right. The U.S. Secret Service confirmed it is investigating an agent, Anthony Pogue, who wrote on Facebook, quote, "If you are mourning this guy, delete me," end quote, in reference to Kirk's killing, among other comments accusing Kirk of spewing, quote, hate and racism, end quote. Well, that's a debate for another day. That's not for now. The agent is currently on administrative leave. The service confirmed in a statement Pogue did not respond to requests for comment. Pogue, whose post also seemed to attribute Kirk's death to, quote, karma, end quote, serves on a protective detail, but not the president, according to a law enforcement official familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity because the investigation is ongoing. Internal misconduct investigations by the service can sometimes take months, but service lenders are facing pressure to fire Pogue outright. Several prominent conservative activists circulated the post after it went up on Thursday and called for the agent's immediate termination. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, sent a letter to Secret Service Director Sean Curran demanding that he fire the agent and root out other bad factors from the protective agency. In South Carolina, Clemson University said in an X statement that it had terminated one employee and placed two professors on leave pending investigation over inappropriate social media content, quote, close quote. The employee had deleted that people should, quote, be a Tyler Robinson or a Luigi Mangione, end quote, referencing to the man charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December. You know, recently, and I'm going to bring that up, the judge threw out the terroristic charges in the Luigi Mangione case. He comes from a very prominent, wealthy family. You notice they're dragging their feet and bringing him to justice for what he did. They don't want the powerful interest people don't want him to go to prison. You know, they have more empathy for him after the execution style murder that he committed than they do for the late Charlie Kirk. Whether you liked him or loved him, he's still a human being. That's the bottom line. I don't have to agree with everything everybody says. I can agree to be disagreeable. I don't have to hate you because of your differences or ideologies and your take on things. We have differences of opinion, but it doesn't mean we sit down and loathe and hate and despise one another because of it. I need to become a political activist if that's the case, to bring some sense and stability and, and civility into conversations. Two individuals from opposing parties should be able to sit down at a table and debate and have differences, even though they may be strong of opinion, ideologies. And at the end of the day, still respect each other. That's how democracy works in America. And during this time of mourning for the memory of Mr. Kirk and his family, people need to respect that. Bottom line. And if people are on social media saying all kind of ridiculous and callous and cold things, rightfully they should be called on it. And that goes for any other tragedy that may occur in this nation. We have seemed to have forgotten about the two major school shootings in this country that took place. Children lost their lives, and no one is talking about it. Families are grieving that aspect as well. Gun control measures must come back at the forefront, and something must be done about it. That is the bottom line. Something must be done about these things. No one's saying that you shouldn't have the right not to own guns, but you have to get them out of the hands of the wrong people and legislate these things. And don't allow the law to favor the rich and the powerful and punish the poor and the dismarginalized. Have some civility, have some decency, have some respect for Kirk's family during this time of mourning. All right, let me get back to this article. Some Clemson students, alumni, Republican members of South Carolina's congressional delegation, and activists, such as Starbucks, expressed outrage over the Clemson employees' actions and called for their firing. Neither the employee nor Clemson responded to requests for comment. It wasn't clear what the professors allegedly said. At Inglewood Health, a New Jersey hospital and health care network, a surgeon resigned last week after an investigation into comments he made in front of co-workers immediately after Kirk's killing, the hospital said in a statement Monday. According to a lawsuit brought by Lexi Q. Nunza, who reported him, the surgeon said, quote, "I hate Charlie Kirk. He had it coming. He deserved it," end quote. She said on television that she brought the suit because she was briefly suspended during the investigation of the incident. Kunzel, who I mispronounced her name the first time, who had recounted the surgeon's comments on social media, did not respond to a request for comment. So they're going to have lawsuits flying all across the board here. Yeah, you can fire them, but people are still going to sue you. Win, lose, or draw. They'll make you spend money unnecessarily. Quote, "We have accepted the physician's resignation and the nurse is expected to work her scheduled shifts," Inglewood Health said in a statement. Wait a minute. Let me go back to this. All right. So according to the lawsuit, Nurse Lexi Kunzel, who reported him, the surgeon said. So she will keep her job, but he's fired. In Texas, more than 100 teachers are facing investigation and the possible loss of their certification to teach in the state over social media reactions to Kirk's killing. Governor Greg Abbott said in an ex post Monday, the state's education agency sent out a letter last week warning that it would investigate staff who posted or shared reprehensible and inappropriate content on social media related to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that could have violated its code of ethics. Governor Greg Abbott has a problem. He selectively speaks out on issues that he deems to be important. Where was Governor Greg Abbott speaking out for the families whose children were murdered? Where? Where was the outrage? Where was the venom? Where was the mourning and support for those families who are still grieving right now? What about the two Democratic lawmakers who were assassinated and killed? The Republicans celebrated their killings. The Republicans celebrated their assassinations. There was no empathy. There was no mourning. There was no love shown coming from the Republican Party. In fact, they delighted in it. What hypocrisy. The same concern and compassion that they have now, you should have had it for those two Democratic lawmakers down in Minnesota. They did not deserve to die like that. Not one Republican expressed any love whatsoever in that situation. Total hypocrisy. That's why I have a problem with the Republican Party. Not because they're Republicans. I have a problem with them because they're hateful and they're mean and they're spiteful when it comes to everything. They won't do anything about the economy. They won't do anything for the homelessness in this nation. They won't do anything to help the seniors that are losing Medicare and Medicaid. You got to show the same love in every circumstance, in every situation. Now, what started with lawmakers weaponizing their platforms against civil servants has morphed into a statewide directive to hunt down and fire educators for opinions shared on their personal social media accounts. Zeph Capo, the union president, said in a statement over the weekend. A columnist for the opinion section of the Washington Post, Karen Atta, said on Monday in a Substack post that she was fired last week over comments she made on the Blue Sky social network in the wake of Kirk's killing. A Post spokeswoman declined to comment on a personnel matter. Whether an employee is public or private could make a big difference in regard to an employee's speech rights. Government employees can expect to have more protections than private employees, according to employment and free speech experts. In the past, the Supreme Court has backed government workers who made similar comments after the 1981 assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. The Supreme Court said a Texas county constable's office violated the First Amendment rights of a clerical employee who was dismissed after she was heard saying, if they go for him again, I hope they get him, close quote. Now that is a horrible statement for her to have made. Quote, in a normal administration, your opinions about political topics are your opinions, as long as you are not making them at work or in the context in which it might create the appearance that you were speaking on behalf of the government, said Eric Snyder, an employment lawyer, who represents federal workers in the current administration. My advice to my clients would be not to say anything at all, because whether or not it is legally permissible for the administration to take action against them, as we have seen, they will do it anyway. The website called the Charlie Kirk Get a Foundation site was launched hours after Kirk's killing under the name Expose Charlie's Murderers. So who were they referring to? They didn't even have one scintilla of evidence as to what occurred or what happened. They automatically thought, oh, let me just say it. They automatically thought it was a black person that did it. That's what they thought. And that's why the governor of Utah, though he was empathetic in his words, calling for unity and things of that nature, he was disappointed because it was somebody who came out of Utah. Not all black people are murderers and savages and killers. People think that black people can't be civilized, articulate, demure with decorum, and things of that nature. I was raised in a very diverse racial neighborhood. And I heard all kinds of racial epithets coming from all sides. From the Italians, from the black people, from the Irish people. All day long. I wouldn't even repeat the things they used to say. Now they're going to say this. Listen. The landing page initially read, quote, is an employee or student of yours supporting political violence online? Look them up on this website. Quote, close quote. This is not a doxing website, the landing page read on Monday after it took down the list of alleged offenders. We lawfully collect publicly available data to analyze the prominence of support for political violence in the interest of public education. No, political violence is because of the rhetoric that is spewed consistently against a marginalized group of people that y'all don't like. The phraseology, you can come up and think that people cannot decipher and understand what's being said. And that's where you're miscalculating individuals, and that's where you are wrong. As a criminal justice major, I understand English very well. And I can decipher, I can read coded language very clearly. And I pay attention to everything. America has got to come back to a civilized society. This huge, wide gap and expanse and divide in this nation is teetering on the verge of a civil war. You can't even have elections in a civil manner anymore without people hating each other. Right-leaning voices, MAGA-leaning voices, have been encouraging the wave of firings. So many people have been fired. I'm so proud of you guys. The online activist Laura Loomer posted on X on Monday, quote, close quote. Well, let's see what happened when Republicans get fired for opening up their mouths when somebody on the Democratic side is hurting the suffering. Let's see how many Republicans get fired. Elon Musk, who bought Twitter in 2022 as a free speech absolutist and later changed its name to X, pledged in 2023 to defend workers who were disciplined for their social media posts. Oh, seriously, this man speaks with a forked tongue. Quote, if you are unfairly treated by your employer due to posting or liking something on this platform, we will fund your legal bill, end quote. He wrote on the platform he renamed X, quote, no limit, end quote. He said in a post that X users pointed to over the weekend, quote, please let us know, end quote, Musk added. So in recent days, Musk has been rallying his following of more than 225 million people behind a different cause. On Saturday, Musk shared what one user said was a quote, a spreadsheet of people who've said vile things about Charlie Kirk's assassination, end quote, complete with names, home states, occupations, employers, and job status. They are the ones poisoning the minds of our children, Musk said. I know what's going to happen when the names, addresses, employers, occupations, and phone numbers and job status are published, and you get some deranged nuts who get their guns and start going up in people's houses and start killing them. All because you provided the information and basically sanctioned it. I told you all that this man was still a part of the inner circle in Washington, D.C. Billionaires who fall out don't fall out like poor people do. They fall out over money and all that kind of stuff, but they're still friends. They're still cronies. They still get together behind closed doors and plot and scheme about how to cheat and defraud people and make people's lives miserable, and then publicly appear to be empathetic to people. But in actuality, they're not. And I'm going to leave it here with this for today. What happened to Charlie Kirk was unwarranted. It should have never happened. And the man who committed this assassination, he must be brought to justice, and every charge imaginable should be charged against him to the fullest extent of the law. And yet, the death penalty in Utah is still active on the books. Kirk's family is in mourning. His friends are in mourning. His supporters are in mourning. And that time of mourning should be respected with civility. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your comments. I appreciate it very much. And I'll be back in another video. Never surrender. Never quit.